What is up, everyone, and welcome back. On today's episode, we're going to go over a case study on how we helped a 68-year-old reposition $6 million of his retirement portfolio without sacrificing too much growth on the back end. And again, this is going to be a fixed indexed annuity strategy, so if you are looking into that, please pay attention, because I know your situation might be a little bit different, but a lot of them follow the same path. We're going to go over the situation, the goals, the challenges, and then our professional recommendation at the end, and what annuity companies to look at and how to use software to choose the best annuity companies for your situation. And again, my name is Dan Trinati. I'm the president and CEO of 360 Financial Group and the Trinati Insurance Agency. If you do want to get in contact with us, just go to 360financialgroup.com, go to the contact page, and we will reach out soon. So let's get right into it today. The current situation of the client, right? So this client, he was 68 years old. He's planning for retirement in the next few years. He got approximately $12.3 million spread between different IRAs and 401ks, and approximately $2 million in a variable annuity, which also sits under an IRA chassis as well. Recently, he just did something that he's never done before. You know, he's been risk on his whole entire life, and he actually made a very smart decision. Now he's kind of in like a window here where he needs to make his next move. But he just moved every single penny of his assets out of equity. So no more market exposure. They're all in like money market accounts or in like 3.5 to 4%. But anyway, we want to see more growth in that, but he's in a position where he doesn't really need a lot of growth per se. He just needs protection to make sure his income is always set for life, his legacy is set for life, and his kids, spouse will all be good to go. So anyway, his estimated retirement income from Social Security for both him and his wife is about $9.4 thousand per month, guaranteed, right? If one of them passes away, yes, that would change. His goal is $10,000 per month. That's where he needs to get to, right? We have approximately $14 million in assets. So really, no matter what happens, he's going to be fine for the rest of his life. It's now just about protecting his assets, seeing some growth, and protecting or making good legacy for the future generations. So that was the situation, the goal, right? Income's not the concern. You guys already saw that. Social Security and pension benefits, they're going to be plenty enough to just about cover almost every single penny of his retirement spending needs. The real goals were eliminating unnecessary risk, which he already did. He's just not really seeing growth. So that's where, we want to continue growing assets as well. We want to maintain a decent size of liquidity for any emergencies, health stuff in the future, nursing home stuff, and just really for him travel the world. And he really wants to preserve a legacy for his family. So we're going to go through how to do all that today. The challenge that many folks have, right? Many investors, if you're in your 30s and 40s, you're accumulating wealth, right? When you're late 50s to 60s, that changes. So retirement changes the conversation of all that. The question becomes, how much risk do you actually need to take on once you've already won the game, right? This guy, he already won. He's set his fixed income set. He's got a large retirement balance. His biggest concerns, right? RMDs, what do I do? And for him, it's pinching pennies at this point. None of the stuff of what we do is going to have like a massive impact if we're looking at RMDs, if we're looking at IRMA cost. For him, again, it's just going to be pinching pennies at that point. The biggest thing though, for him is really the legacy value and sequence of returns risk. And my bad, I spelled returns correctly. There should be a U in there. And if you guys follow us, you guys already know what this sequence of returns, what the purpose of that is, and the power of making sure you're properly set up for that. So why did we reposition about $6 million? Well, exactly $6 million. We already had enough assets to support our retirement. That wasn't a question, but that created an opportunity for us to capitalize on. He doesn't want all of his money just sitting in money market accounts barely earning interest. So instead of chasing those maximum returns, we focused on protecting our principal, capturing market-linked growth, fixed indexed annuity, reducing market risk, right? All this is annuity-based, and still maintaining flexibility. There's different annuities that we'll talk about today. Some that you don't have as much flexibility, like an income annuity. For this guy, it doesn't make sense to do something like that. And his goal is not to beat the market, right? It's to improve his retirement experience. He doesn't want to worry about markets going up and down anymore. He wants to chill, and he just wants to be good for the rest of his life. So here's what our recommendation was and what we're moving forward with. Typically, when folks come to us with about $6 million that we're going to reposition, we don't want to put that all into one single annuity company. Not saying that one annuity company is bad, but we like to spread that out across multiple annuities for different goals, right? So each one's kind of serving a different purpose, and also just for insurance risk too. Maybe one of them keeps better rates than another one. Really just kind of is good if we're repositioning typically a million plus, to spread those out across a couple different annuity companies. So what we did for him is we spread it across 3 different buckets. Bucket number one is going to give him a higher growth opportunity. Bucket number two is going to be what's called steady yearly growth. And bucket number three is going to actually be a bonus annuity. And if you guys follow along with us a lot, sometimes I don't like bonus annuities that much, but for somebody that just wants a lot of principal protection, kind of like a bond replacement, a bonus annuity could be good. And annuity companies just did increase the rates with the rates going up. But each one of these buckets, it serves a different purpose for this client. Together, they're creating a very balanced portfolio for him from an annuity basis. So we're going to go through the different buckets and why we chose the different buckets for him. So the first bucket is going to be just a higher growth opportunity, seeing a lot of the upside of the S&P 500. And there's a couple different companies that have this. Bucket number one, again, we're going to use a company called Lincoln Financial. They have a phenomenal 5-year crediting strategy. Some folks don't like this one because you're not going to see growth for 5 years, but you're going to capture 82% of the upside of the S&P 500. So let me give you an example here. So let's say right now the S&P is hovering right around like 7,400. Let's say the S&P rises 80% over the next 5 years, which would be amazing, right? It'd be great. So it goes from 7,400 to 13,320 with an 82% participation rate. That's the percentage of the growth that we're going to see. So if the markets went up 80%, we see 82% of it. This client would have seen 65.6% of the growth of the S&P with absolutely zero downside risk. So let's just say he put 5 million in there, which I know we're not going to do that. I should have used the actual 2 million, but for purposes of this, that's just okay. 5 million, he would have turned that to $8.28 million. Not too shabby on this. You're going to see a lot of growth with this, with those 5-year crediting strategies. A lot of folks, I don't recommend this. In this case, for this client, he doesn't really need this money, right? He's got a lot of other assets to pull from. There's no significant reason that we're going to need part of this money right here. So we can let that sit and ride for those 5 years and see a lot of growth on it. And why we like it, strong growth potential. That participation is locked in for those 5 years, and it's an excellent long-term accumulation strategy. So this is going to be his higher growth opportunity bucket. Bucket number two is going to look at more of a steady yearly growth. I actually chose a couple of different companies in this, but what we do whenever we're looking for a strong yearly growth-based annuity, right, we don't want fees, we don't want any riders on here, we just want to link it up to the S&P 500. But it's very, very important when we're doing this for a growth annuity, they need an A+, or A++ rated carrier. Companies that have been around for 100 years, strong balance sheets, like a lot of bonds in their personal asset portfolio. The reason that's important is because some of these new companies that let's say they're around since 2011, they might look like they have better rates right now, but if they're in a lot of riskier assets where they're investing your money and those assets don't do too well, those investments don't do well, guess what happens? That comes back at you. Your growth rates the next couple years go down, and we don't like that. I'd rather show you numbers that are a lot more conservative, but are going to be true, or very, not 100%, but a lot more steady for the lifetime of your annuity contract. And just that kind of what happens down here. All right, stability. So when we're looking at these companies, you know, you got Midland National is a great one. Again, Lincoln Financial is a good one. The Reliance Standard, another great company. I forget if I said Mass Mutual, another great company on the backside with very strong rates. But these companies are a lot more consistent. Right? They're going to have those competitive rates over time. Some of the companies, for example, you're going to be looking at caps of the S&P 500. We always like to keep it mostly S&P 500 related, just because you know what the S&P is, I know what the S&P is, right? There's no second guessing on how this is going to perform. A lot of them right now have like a 10.25% cap and a 58% participation rate for the yearly point to points, meaning every single year you're going to see those gains. Those gains are locked in. So instead of like the bucket number one, we have to wait those 5 years to see the big growth. On this one, he's going to see those gains every single year. And again, when we're choosing these companies, there might be one company with a little bit better cap or another company with a little bit better participation rate, but we like to take all the companies' indexes into consideration. So if this one doesn't do too well for you, that there's another boatload, or a very professional term there, another bunch of indices to choose from. Right, so we don't just like to choose the one company that only has the best this one. No, we want to take into consideration the entire portfolio of that company. What other indexes do they have? What other options do they have for you to choose to link up your money to? So anyway, that was bucket number two. Going over to bucket number three, right? And you guys know that a lot of times I'm not a massive fan of a bonus annuities, because with a bonus annuity, you are going to give up long-term growth, but you are going to get the upside from the very beginning, the protection from day one. For this client, a reason why we're doing this is to really create a bond replacement type strategy from day one. We're comfortable giving up some of that long-term growth or that immediate upfront bonus. So again, this bucket is going to serve a different purpose for this client that we have here. Instead of maximizing growth, we're focusing on creating immediate security. Right now, as of June 8th, 2026, the best premium bonus on the market with the best caps is currently a 17% bonus. So let's just say you put in $1 million into this one. This client is going to have from day one $1.17 million, right? So an immediate 17% growth on his money that he has in here. There's not going to be any fees on this, and this currently has a S&P 500 cap of about 6.25%. There is another company that has a 19% bonus, but they drop the cap down to 5. And what happens is if that cap hits 2 years, you would have outperformed with the 17% bonus. So this was the happy medium that we found for this client. And again, this is not meant to outperform bucket number 1 or bucket number 2. That's not the purpose of this strategy here. It's to create that immediate bond style allocation inside of an annuity contract, so he has a lot more funds that are just secured, right? Even if this doesn't go up for a couple years, he immediately has that $1.17 million. Why use multiple carriers if you're putting a large portion of money into a fixed indexed annuity? Right? Diversification is not just for investments. It is also important when we are using annuities as well. So benefits include, you got carrier diversification, how are maybe this company ends up maintaining a little bit better rates than another company, or these indices worked a little bit better than this one. They have different crediting methods, and it just gives you, the client, a little bit more flexibility on the back end. And we rarely believe that one annuity company should hold all of your money. If you're putting really about like $1 million and up, we should spread that out over a couple of different companies. And what about liquidity, right? One of the downsides with an annuity is potential limited liquidity, right? We have the 10% free withdrawal per year. But with this client, right, even after reallocating $6 million, his living expenses are already taken care of. So the liquidity is not a concern for this client. He still has another $6-8 million in other accounts as well. So even if we have the 10%, he can still take out an extra $600,000 a year. Right, whoop-de-doo. He is going to be just fine. That is not a concern for him whatsoever. And also with annuities, most of them, you have the penalty-free RMD withdrawal. So if he's going to need to take out about $600,000 on once he is 65 from his retirement portfolio to satisfy his RMDs. If we need to take more out of that from an annuity, we can do that. And again, liquidity not a concern with him. So what is the outcome that we are creating for this client? I hope you guys are getting some good information out of this in terms of why we're allocating to different annuity assets, so to say. But bucket number 1, that's going to be a significant growth opportunity, right? We're just going to let that sit and grow for those 5 years. Bucket number 2, we have a consistent yearly growth from an A+, A++ rated company that's been around for 100+ years, no fees. And the bucket number 3 is going to be that bond replacement with an immediate bonus and the security from that, right? So when we're combining all 3 of these buckets together, you're getting your principal protection, you got your growth opportunity, diversification, flexibility, and we just have overall greater retirement confidence. And then we test everything. So obviously, we would love for you guys just to believe us, right? We would love that, and I believe you will. But we want to go one step further, right? We don't want you to just believe everything we're telling you is true. We want to show you everything we're telling you is true. So we want to go from recommendation to validation. So as we're doing this on our second call with this client, we drew out our recommendation, we had our second call, we bring up our software. The software compares all of the different annuity contracts, every single one on the open market, the growths, the caps, what are some of their rate renewal histories. So again, right, participation caps, bonuses, historical performance, the carrier strength, liquidity provisions as well. So that way this client is able to see why we chose every single company we did. So we literally share our screen with y'all. You see all the recommendations. You see everything that we're going through. So you're not just getting pigeonholed into one other annuity contract like a lot of folks do with other agents. We don't like that. So anyway, pretty simple. We send you the proposal. We get on the Zoom. We go through it all together. The software backs up all the recommendations. And if we want to make any changes, maybe when we get on there, say, hey, you know what? I just like this one a little bit better. I like the option of this one, right? Sometimes there's a 5-year annuity also, for example, with Lincoln Financial that has a great par rate, and then you can get out of it after 5 years and re-up. Right? So there's different strategies that we'll also uncover as we're going through the software together. So the biggest takeaway, as you guys are paying attention to this, is once you have accumulated significant amount of wealth, the conversation changes. Even if it's not significant, once you're getting to retire, the conversation changes. The question becomes, how do I continue to grow my assets while reducing unnecessary risk, right? And that's going to get back to this sequence of returns risk and really minimizing that sequence of returns risk. And that's for this client, this is exactly what just happened. So final thoughts, right? Every retirement plan is different. So if you guys are coming to us, our suggestion for you is going to be different than this client, right? It depends what your asset portfolio is looking like. The process that we follow through for all of our clients remains the same, right? What is our income needs? That is always step number one. What are the risks and unnecessary risks that we have inside of our portfolio? And a lot of times we'll look at what's called the rule of 110. So let's say you're 70, right? So you take 110 minus 70, that gives us 40. That's saying no more than about 40% of your assets should still be exposed to the markets. And there's other math equations that we can use to determine that as well. We protect a portion of the portfolio, maintain growth opportunities, and preserve flexibility. That's all we did here. We kept it nice and simple. If you guys are watching this and you want a second opinion, you say, hey, you know what? I have a similar situation or my situation is different, reach out to us. Go to 360financialgroup.com, book a call. They're free, but make sure, we do attend those because we do put a lot of time and effort for each one of our clients. And we just, we want to make sure that whatever you're going to do, if you're going to go through with an annuity, that you have, a second opinion on what is out there, why this company or why that company, because you guys are making a very big life decision to trust us, to trust the annuity company with a lot of your money. So before you just jump in and do that, let us give you a second opinion. Go into the software so you guys can check for yourself. Anyway, again, I hope you guys got some good information out of this. Catch you next time.